Hi, welcome back to Womenemies Podcast. Whew, this episode is something that's very fresh on my mind, which is why I wanted to record it today. And it's about when the overwhelm bubbles up and we snap, whether it's with loved ones at home or another place of business outside the home. Because let's speak it true, let's set it straight. Home is a business too. Marriage is work, raising a child is work, running a home is work. So that's why I don't like saying working moms because it's all work. So sometimes there's another place of business outside of the home. We say another place of business. Okay. This applies in both worlds, the home business and the out of home business as well. And a lot of times falls and happens with women where we don't bring up the overwhelm. We just take on things. And when we get pulled and pulled to our limit, not just one day, but multiple days, that the overwhelm is just building and building, we finally snap. We can be emotional, we can be angry, we could be tired, and we don't communicate our overwhelm efficiently because, right, when we're overwhelmed, when you're tired, you're not going to communicate as efficiently and as cooperative way, I would say, or in a productive way, because we've let it build up. And then it doesn't solve anything. And also, you don't feel seen. This podcast, first of all, and this episode is to say, I see you, sister. I feel you. I've been there, both in the home and in work that's outside of the home. I've been there where I have not communicated my overwhelmed. I've let it build up and then I snap and I'm not as productive or influential or persuasive to really be seen. So let's first just give some real life examples. Yesterday, it was our first day back after being gone to Corfu, which was a fabulous time, for 6 days. So when you come back, you have a kid, the house, the laundry, everything. And one day we got back Sunday evening, so everything really on Monday. So Monday started off really just trying to, play catch up with the laundry, with grocery shopping, with getting my son back into the swing of school because they had been off for, 5 days. We know that with any kid getting back into the swing of things, that's a job in itself. And I also had a list of things to do, and I'll get to that in a moment. And by the time between my work out of the home and in the home, it felt so overwhelming. And I had listed 3 things I wanted to do: edit my prior podcast, send some company emails regarding listening audits, and do some financial planning with my husband, answer emails regarding school, and plan my son's birthday and be on the phone, and also prep the invitation and everything like that, and make the list, and so forth. Okay. So around 8 o'clock had come, and my husband calls me. We were late to eat dinner. He's in the States, and I had tears in my eyes, but also this frenetic energy where I just felt like I wanted to scream or punch a pillow because I felt like everything fell on me. I was reminding my son constantly to get back on task. There was something he forgot to do for the next day. He was trying to finish it. We had been delayed because we had gone to the basketball court. He thought he was done with his homework. He wasn't. He got home. He had more stuff to do. I was helping him while also cooking and cleaning and also being on the phone trying to finalize some birthday details. And I felt completely invisible. I felt like no one sees what I'm doing. And my husband called me, and I'm in this moment. And he's like, babe, what are you so overwhelmed about? Now, he did not mean that sarcastically. He just didn't know. Okay. But I took it like, how do you not know? How do you not know the daily strife I go through with my just running the house and my son, let alone trying to build a business, you know, and be a present parent, not just a parent there. And I snapped. I said, "What do you mean why I'm overwhelmed?" And I started listing things, but they weren't in order and not explaining what everything took. And also, he was, on a quick work break from the tennis courts, so he didn't have a lot of time. So nothing really got resolved other than me saying, "You don't understand what I'm going through." And then I started bringing up things from the past. You send me a text, "Hey, can you send this person an email?" You never ask me, "Do I have time?" You just assume because I'm not quote unquote in the office every single day that I am not bringing income to the home and work to the home, which home is work. So I went off. And then my son was like, "Mom, come help me." And I said, "Did you realize I was doing work right now?" "No, but I need your help." I go, "Mommy matters just as much as you matter, just as much as daddy mattered." But I didn't say it like that. I said, "Can't you just do this on your own? Why don't you know that mommy is a human being too? And she's not a robot and she doesn't live here to just serve you and daddy." Like I just snapped. I yelled. I said, "You were supposed to do this. I can't be here to remind you every day." And I yelled. He got upset. My husband understood I was overwhelmed. He didn't get upset, but he was calm, but he had to go. I apologized later for snapping. I apologized to them both for snapping because I did yell at both of them. And I felt like a bad mother and I felt like a bad wife and I felt like just a failure. But then I said, "Okay, hold on. This is normal. When anyone, is under pressure, they, just like boiling water, if there's a cap on it, the cap might come off." I sat down, I apologized to both of them, and I said, "Listen, I know mommy and snapped, and that was not right, and I apologize for raising my voice because that's not right. I feel, and I need to do a better job of this, but that I take on a lot of things that both of you don't see. And sometimes the way you communicate to me is that you think that I have all the free time in the world, and there's no respect for the amount of effort that I do and the amount of mental gymnastics that goes on. Because it's not just the physical labor, it's switching from one task to another that's completely different." And I explained that in that way. And they understood, and I took them through a list of things I had done in one day, and both of them understood, and I said, "I would like to hear some appreciation, not now, but in the future. Just acknowledge what I do, and I'll do a better job too of communicating what I do." And they both said, "Thank you for everything you do. We didn't realize this." And like, it was very productive, but an hour later after I had to repair it. To give you another real life example in a place of business outside of the home, when I took on a new role as vice president of a law firm, I came in and I was told, to oversee HR, recruiting, operations management, some marketing, some website, not like tech stuff, but the verbiage. And then, with COVID, I had to do PPL loans and more things got put onto my plate and reviewing cases for closure. And I just kept on saying yes, yes, and yes. And okay, recruiting in itself is a full-time job, we know this, but I was doing all of these jobs. I wasn't complaining. A year passed. I didn't ask for a raise because I knew the company was growing and I could tell that the owner was stressed. And so I said, "Okay, whatever. My job and my hard work will go acknowledged." Probably deep down I was afraid to confront it because I knew I was being underpaid and I found out how underpaid I was being because I thought the company couldn't afford it and they could. So I found out that and I felt not valued, but because I didn't want to deal with all that, I was going through a lot of trauma at the time. I just said, if I put my head down, I'll believe in the fairy tale that hard work pays off and, you know, all my hard work will be seen. But by doing that, slowly, resentment built. Resentment that I was spending more hours away from my son, that I was paying a nanny more and I was being underpaid at work, th- you know, that I was doing all these things that weren't seen, acknowledged, or even appreciated. And so when it came time first to ask for the raise, which was a year and a half later, I was more emotional because I had all this stuff built in that I wanted to say, but I had emotion and resentment and anger that it came out not as, even though I had an outline in front of me, it didn't come out as productive. Um, so in the follow-up email, and I was told I would be considered for a raise because obviously I had done a lot for the company. But the raise, I didn't specifically ask for what I wanted and document everything. So the next day when I had time to reflect, I wrote a long email and I outlined everything I had done in different um, areas: HR, operations, team building, site marketing, COVID transition. I had done all of that and I sent it over. And I also in outlined, because I had talked to a recruiter not to get a job, but to see what the value would be in a similar place of work. And I was like tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens thousands of dollars underpaid. So I wrote down, these are, the separate jobs, what they would cost. And I'm doing at least three. And in my role in this similar law firm, this is what this person makes. And I felt a lot better. And I also, by writing everything I do, I saw everything I did and I was proud of myself. And I felt more confident in asking for that raise and more confident in myself, even if I got a no, that I knew what I had done and what I had offered. So even if no one did appreciate me, I knew it, right? But also, I had all the evidence to back up for the raise. Did I get the raise I wanted? No. Was I upset? Yeah. But at the same time, I didn't take it personally because it was all written down and I can be respectful and I was not disgruntled and I would, I carried on. Um, but at least I said my piece in a productive manner. The first time around, I didn't because I did cry. I was just feeling overwhelmed and nervous and scared. And I think mostly anger on myself that I hadn't communicated from the jump, from when I got the position, from when I negotiated my salary. And then I didn't follow up 6 months later when I found out that I was being underpaid. And then not at my 1 year, I didn't ask for an annual review. So that was anger towards myself. But I let it bubble up because the whole time I was writing down in separate things what I was doing, but I wasn't every day congratulating myself and everything I've done. I've just, because I can do things so quickly and efficiently and I'm good with people, I took myself for granted. And I didn't write that all down and I didn't see it. And by not seeing everything I do, I wasn't as confident to ask for things that I deserved and for it to be shown and for work to be taken off my plate and to say this, is not manageable for one person. So it was a big lesson for me. And I learned that in my out of home work life. And and I've been doing a really good job because I, teach other women and in coaching and in seminars to write down everything they're doing. And I have productive meetings when they're calm and, in a place where both partners can be focused on the task at hand in explaining everything that they're doing so that they can be seen by their partner and by their kids and by the household. Because when we don't make it visible to ourselves, how are we expecting other people to know everything we're doing? Because I guarantee you, if they care about you, love you, as a lot of people in your life do, they'll sit down and they'll say, okay, that's too much work for one person. Let's figure out how to, delegate it out. And the same in the workforce. If you have a manager that cares for the efficiency and growth and longevity of their employees, which a lot of companies do, you have to make your work visible so that they can delegate, reorganize. It could be, making another role. There's so many different things. But if you're not writing it down, you won't know. And then resentment and overwhelm builds up. And then you're not productive in communicating. So, in both the home and in your place of work outside of the home, you need to write down what you're doing every day. Start by doing a daily journal. It doesn't have to take that long, but it can take writing down exactly what you did today and also the mental gymnastics that you played. Because switching from one task to another when they're not related takes time. It takes time to sit back in the role and think when you're being interrupted by emails or a baby crying or, phone calls that you need to respond to, two different urgent matters. That really strains your mental brain and you're not a robot. So you have to write those all down. Because when you write those all down and you see what you can handle in a day and what you can't handle in a day, then you're more productive when you plan your day. And let me give you an example now, going back to the overwhelm that I had with my husband. So it was Monday. I had gotten back Sunday evening. I had done some laundry, but most of the laundry and organizing and a lot of grocery shopping, all those things and meal planning had to be done on Monday. So Monday, I also had a list of things I wanted to do. It was edit my podcast, send some emails and replies to companies about my listening audits, draft an email to a prospective client and do the research on them, which takes time and quietness and focus. I wanted to remind my husband on certain things regarding taxes, estimated taxes, and I wanted to handle the house stuff. I said handle house stuff. That's what I wrote down. Do you see? I think you know where I'm going this if you've heard my other podcasts. House stuff. It's not just one thing. It's not just with a bow, 1 hour, done. No, 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 no. I didn't write down after working out in the morning, which is very important. Sleep and working out and our nutrition are not something that go to the side. It's not something that gets sacrificed for the list. Okay. Grocery shopping. And that requires going to 2 to 3 places because there's the fresh vegetable market here, which nutrition is important. Going to the main store to get stuff, for the house. Coming and meal planning before that, making the list for the grocery shop. That takes time. After doing grocery shopping, coming back home, unpacking and organizing the refrigerator and the cupboards. That takes time. Prepping the food to cook for dinner at night. That takes time. Okay. 4 loads of laundry because some are delicate, some have to be hung out. That takes time. About 2 hours passed. I did edit my podcast. I did draft emails. And one thing I wanted to do was do my son's birthday. I did do that. But guess what? I was running into lunchtime. I made a quick lunch, which I'm reminding myself to eat. But I didn't get everything done that I wanted to. I didn't remind my husband. I wanted to call the plumber. I didn't get to all those things. And because I didn't get to all the emails, I didn't get to all of the birthday things, I didn't get to finishing all the housework, I felt overwhelmed. I felt like I didn't do enough because I didn't write everything down. I didn't write what the house stuff was. Now I know. I know better. But I was in such a rush that I, again, made it seem like it's not that big of a deal. So if I'm making it seem like the house stuff is not a big deal and helping my son with his homework, and when I pick him up from school, coming back, having a routine, being there because he had some stuff he wanted to talk to me about, some things that had upset him, that takes time. Cooking, being on the phone while he's on the court, trying to figure out his birthday invitations and planning and the logistics of, where we're going to do the food and everything like that. And also be a present mom. That was a lot. And so by the time my husband called, I had almost burned the rice. My son was calling for me. My husband was calling for me. And all I wanted to do was go and cry because I felt like no one saw me. Because the truth is, I didn't even see myself. And if I had written down everything that I know like I do these all the time. I know the grocery shopping will take more time. I know that meal planning will take more time. I need to write it all down and not just say house stuff. And I need to be kinder with myself and write 2 or 3 things that need to be done and really itemize them and be realistic with my day. And then if there's more, then I have a running list of items. Same thing in your place of work outside of the you need to write everything you're doing down because then you get a gauge of how long it takes you. If you know you have a meeting that is a Zoom conference call or a presentation, you know that afterwards you're going to be mentally, drained of certain things. So don't take on another project that possibly will cause a lot of mental energy and you won't be able to leave on time. You plan your day out, you plan your tasks out and you give room to be interrupted because always think, no day is perfect. There's going to be people interrupting you for urgent matters, non-urgent matters. You're going to need to learn to block out certain emails that aren't urgent until you finish your tasks. But if you're not writing everything you've done in a day, you won't know how to plan your day and you also won't know how to ask for help when you truly are overwhelmed and you don't want to let that fester. So you want to be able to ask for help and delegate out and know your workload. If you don't know your workload, no one else will. Both outside of the home business and in your home as CEO of your household. So I want you to remember this. If it takes energy, mentally or physically, write it down and be truthful amount of time it takes you. You will learn how to be more efficient, how to plan out your day, and how to also delegate out. And then, very important, don't react in the moment when you feel overwhelmed. You can say, right now I have a lot on my plate. I need to focus down. And when I'm calmer, I need to talk about certain things. That's why writing down every single day what you do, you take it to your partner at home and you say, these are all the things that I feel are not being seen. And I need you to understand because you're not living it every single day, what mental and physical endurance it takes to do these. And what can we move off of my plate because I need help. I can't do this all on my own. Same thing in work. You go to your boss or your manager and you say, these are all the things I do. These are things that aren't in my job description that became part of me. Or these are part of my job description, but these have subcategories that aren't listed in. I think it's beneficial for the company for you to know how much mental time or mental and physical energy it takes to do all of these things. And if I'm expected to do all these other things, that's either going to be overtime or I need a promotion or I need an assistant. But you need to write it down because it helps you speak up for yourself, be confident, explain to other people what you're going through and what's on your plate because a lot of the time we just want to also be seen and appreciated and we feel like no one knows what we're doing. But if we don't know what we're doing, how are we going to explain what we're doing to someone else if we don't even know what we're doing? So that's why it's very, very important to track your work. And then you can also plan your day listing a couple items and being realistic because you know how much time it takes. So don't minimize anything. Grocery shopping, cleaning, organizing. Don't minimize anything that you do because it is a business. The home is a business. And outside of the home, in your other place of work business, nothing is too small. Make it visible. I'll leave you with that. I hope this helped. And I hope when you're calm, you can have that conversation with your partner, with your place of business outside the home, and know that we're all human. We're all going to get overwhelmed. We're all going to bubble up and sometimes snap. But don't let it be because you're not even acknowledging all the work and hard work that you're doing. Take care for now. We'll talk soon.